The stars blinked as 300 human warships tore through the fabric of space. They appeared at the edge of the Centauri system like ghosts from a forgotten nightmare. Each ship gleamed with new technology, built from 20 years of burning, hatred, and careful planning. Admiral George Harris stood tall on the bridge of the HSS Determination, the largest ship in humanity's fleet. His gray hair and lined face showed the weight of the last 20 years. The blue light from the ship's screens lit up his face as he stared at the green and blue planet ahead, Draconis Prime, home of the aliens who had tried to wipe out humanity. "All ships in position?" Harris asked, his voice steady and low. Lieutenant Susan Clark tapped on her screen, reading the reports coming in from the fleet. "Yes, Admiral. All ships report ready for battle. Our surprise worked. The Draconids didn't see us coming." She zoomed in on her screen. "Their ships are scrambling, but they're confused. They have no plan." Harris nodded slowly. He thought back to the day the Draconid Empire attacked Earth without warning. The sky had turned red with fire that day. 2 billion humans died in the first hour. The aliens thought they had won easily, leaving Earth in ruins. But they hadn't checked carefully enough. Survivors gathered in hidden bunkers and the remains of cities. They swore to rebuild, to strike back. For 20 years, humanity worked in secret. They studied the broken alien ships left behind. They learned the enemy's technology. They built weapons the aliens couldn't imagine. They united like never before. Old enemies became allies. All countries worked together, all for one purpose: survival. "Send a message to all ships," Harris said. "Hold positions. No one fires without my direct order." Commander Frank Owen walked up beside Harris, his face tight with tension. 20 years of waiting, Admiral. The crews are eager." "I know," Harris said. "But we do this right. We're not like them." He turned to the communications officer. "Open a channel to the Imperial Palace. I want to speak to their Emperor." The young officer nodded. "Channel open, sir. Broadcasting on all frequencies they might use." The large screen at the front of the bridge flickered and changed. A face appeared, not human, but reptile-like, with dark green scales and multiple eyes that gleamed with cold intelligence. Emperor Krathvar, ruler of the largest empire in known space, stared at Harris with shock that quickly turned to anger. "This is impossible," the Emperor said, his voice deep and hissing. "Your species was defeated, your world broken." Harris stepped forward, making sure the alien could see him clearly. "You made a mistake, Emperor. You didn't finish the job." The bridge crew watched in silence. Many had lost families in the attack on Earth. Some had been children when it happened. Now they faced their enemy for the first time. "How did you find our homeworld?" the Emperor demanded. "How did you build these ships? No primitive species could advance so quickly." Harris smiled slightly. "We had good teachers, your dead soldiers, your crashed ships, every piece of your technology we could find. You gave us the tools of our survival." The Emperor's scales darkened with anger. "What do you want, human? To join the Galactic Council? To beg for mercy? Perhaps we can find a small place for your remaining people." "We're not here to talk politics," Harris said. "Our message is simple. Surrender your empire within 24 hours, or we will take it apart piece by piece, world by world." The Emperor laughed, a sound like rocks sliding together. "With what? Your tiny fleet? The Imperial? Armada has thousands of warships. You have doomed your species by coming here." Harris didn't react to the threat. He had expected it. "The first time we met, you attacked without warning. You bombed our cities. You killed our children. You thought we were weak." He leaned closer, to the screen. "You were wrong." Behind him, the bridge crew worked with quiet determination. On screens around the room, they could see Draconid ships forming defensive patterns around their homeworld. The aliens were still disorganized, but they were recovering from the surprise. "One day," Harris continued, "that's all you get. Surrender or face the consequences." "The consequences?" the Emperor mocked. "Your primitive weapons cannot harm our defenses. Our ships outmatch yours in every way." Harris nodded to the weapons officer. "Show him. Lieutenant Alan Wade pressed a series of buttons. Target locked, sir. Firing demonstration weapon. From the side of the Determination, a small missile launched. It moved faster than any tracking system could follow, heading toward an empty part of space far from any ships or planets. What is? The Emperor began. The missile detonated. Where there had been empty space, a miniature sun now burned. The flash temporarily blinded sensors across both fleets. When it cleared, a perfect sphere of superheated plasma hung in space, slowly cooling and expanding. That was at 10% power, Harris said quietly. Aimed at nothing. Imagine what we could do to a planet. For the first time, real fear showed in the Emperor's eyes. This is impossible. Your kind couldn't have developed such weapons. 20 years of working with one goal, Harris said. Amazing what motivation can do. 24 hours, Emperor. The choice is yours. The screen went dark as the Emperor cut the connection. Commander Owen moved closer to Harris. Do you think they'll surrender, sir? Harris looked at the beautiful blue-green world below them, the heart of an empire that had ruled 1,000 worlds for 300 years. No, he said softly, but I had to give them the chance. We're better than they are. He turned to face his crew. All ships maintain position. Be ready for their first attack. They won't wait long. Outside, the human fleet formed a perfect half-circle facing the Draconid homeworld. The ships looked small against the vastness of space and the might of an empire. But inside each one, the crew watched and waited, ready for the war they had prepared for all their adult lives. The Draconid Empire had awakened humanity's fighting spirit. Now they would learn what that truly meant. Morning light spread across the great cities of Draconis Prime. The golden rays hit the tall crystal towers and made them shine like giant jewels. In parks and squares, worried Draconid citizens gathered around large screens, watching their emperor speak. Do not fear the human ships, Emperor Krathvar told his people, his scaled face filling the screens. They are few and weak. Our mighty fleet will crush them before the day ends. The citizens wanted to believe him. For 300 years, the Draconid Empire had never lost a war. They had conquered 1,000 worlds. How could humans, a species they had nearly wiped out 20 years ago, be any threat? High above the blue-green planet, Captain Olivia Martinez stood on the bridge of the HSS Defiant. Through the large front window, she watched hundreds of Draconid warships moving into battle positions. The enemy ships were twice the size of human vessels covered in heavy armor and weapons. Look at them, said Lieutenant Paul Wright, the ship's weapon officer. They're forming a standard attack wall, just like in all the old battle records we studied. Martinez nodded. She was young, only 15 when the Draconids attacked Earth, but now she commanded one of humanity's best ships. They haven't learned anything new. They haven't needed to, until today. She tapped her communication device. All ships report ready for Phase 1. Ready, Captain, Wright confirmed. Martinez took a deep breath. They're fighting the last war. We're fighting the next one. Begin Phase 1. Across the human fleet, special ships moved into new positions. These ships carried a technology that humans had taken 20 years to perfect: quantum disruption fields. They had built it by studying broken pieces of Draconid technology found on Earth after the attack. On the bridge of the largest Draconid warship, Admiral Skrath was giving final attack orders. He was not worried. His ship alone could destroy 10 human vessels. Suddenly, all the screens on his bridge went dark. The ship's computers began shutting down. What's happening? Skrath shouted at his officers. A young technician looked up from his station, fear showing in his multiple eyes. Unknown energy field, Admiral. It's blocking our targeting systems and communications. Skrath hit his command chair with his clawed hand. Impossible. The humans don't have such technology. Switch to backup systems. Backup systems are also affected, another officer reported. We're receiving reports that the entire fleet is experiencing the same problems. On the Defiant, Martinez watched as the human fleet split apart, each ship accelerating to speeds that should have been impossible. For vessels their size, this was another human invention. New engines built from combining Earth technology with Draconid science. They can't target us, Wright reported. Their ships are blind and deaf. Martinez nodded. Execute Phase 1 attack pattern. The human ships didn't attack the large Draconid warships directly. Instead, they targeted the smaller support vessels, the ships that carried fuel, repair equipment, and communication systems. Precise laser fire disabled engines and weapon systems without destroying the ships completely. Minimal casualties, Wright reported. Most of their crew will survive. Good, Martinez said. We're not them. We don't kill when we don't have to. Back on the HSS Determination, Admiral Harris watched the battle on a large 3D display. Small blue lights representing human ships moved smoothly through the confused mass of red lights that showed the Draconid fleet. Phase 1 is working perfectly, Commander Owen reported. Their fleet is in chaos. Their coordination is broken. Harris nodded. They expected us to attack like they would, directly, with overwhelming force. They never imagined we'd fight. Smart instead of strong. He touched a button on his chair. All ships begin Phase 2. Owen relayed the order through the fleet communication system. Deploying strike teams. From the sides of many human ships, small craft shot out like bullets. Each one carried a dozen human soldiers in powered armor, special suits that made them stronger, faster, and able to breathe in space. The suits also contained technology that could connect to and control Draconid computers. These small craft headed straight for the largest enemy ships. Instead of destroying them, the humans would capture them. In the Imperial Palace on Draconis Prime, Emperor Krathvar was receiving bad news from all directions. His advisors reported that the human attack was succeeding. The Draconid fleet was falling apart. How is this possible? The Emperor shouted, his scales dark with anger. They are primitive. We destroyed their world. High General Vortash stood before his ruler. 20 years ago, he had led the attack on Earth. He had told the Emperor that humans would never recover, never be a threat. Your Majesty, the general said carefully, it seems we've made a mistake. We thought humans were weak because their technology was behind ours, but we didn't understand their true strength. And what is that? The Emperor demanded. Adaptation, Vortash said. In 20 years they've taken our technology and improved it. They've created weapons and defenses we never imagined. And they've done it all with one purpose, to defeat us. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. You promised me they would never rise again. Vortash lowered his head. I was wrong, Your Majesty, and now we are all paying for my mistake. Outside, the battle continued. Human ships moved with perfect coordination, while the Draconid fleet fell into greater confusion. On many Imperial ships, the lights went out as human strike teams took control of their systems. The war that was supposed to last days might be over in hours, and the greatest empire in the galaxy was facing something it had never experienced before. Defeat. 3 days had passed since the human fleet arrived at Draconis Prime. The once mighty Draconid fleet now drifted in space, half of its ships captured with their crews locked in their own brig sections. The humans had taken over the orbital defense platforms and turned them against any Imperial ships that tried to approach the planet. Inside the grand hall of the Imperial Palace, the mood was dark. The tall windows that usually let in bright sunlight were covered. The Emperor had ordered it, not wanting to see the human ships that now controlled the sky above his world. Ambassador Lisa Moore walked slowly into the hall, her steps echoing on the polished stone floor. 2 human Marines walked beside her, their powered armor making them look twice their normal size. The soldiers' armor showed burn marks and scratches from recent fighting. The Emperor sat on his throne, but he looked smaller than he had 3 days ago. His scales had lost their bright shine. Around him stood his war council, the highest generals and admirals of the Empire. Many of them couldn't look the human ambassador in the eye. Your fleet is defeated, Moore said, her voice clear in the quiet room. Your colonies are breaking away from the Empire. The species you conquered for centuries have declared themselves free. The Draconid Empire no longer exists except in name. Emperor Krathvar raised his head slowly. "You couldn't have done this alone," he said. "Who helped you? The Arcturians? The Vega Alliance?" Moore shook her head. "No one helped us. After you attacked Earth, the other spacefaring species stayed away from humans. They thought we were doomed and didn't want to share our fate. General Vortash, who had led the attack on Earth 20 years earlier, stepped forward. He looked at the human ambassador with a mixture of fear and curiosity. "How did you do it?" he asked. "How did you develop weapons that could defeat our technology? We were centuries ahead of you." "Necessity," Moore answered simply. "You gave humanity a choice, change or die. We chose to change." She took a small device from her pocket and placed it on the floor. It projected a 3D image in the air, pictures of destroyed human cities being rebuilt from ruins. Men, women, and children working together to clear away the broken buildings left by the Draconid attack. "While you thought we were broken," Moore continued, "we were studying every piece of your technology that you left behind on Earth. Every crashed ship, every dead soldier, every broken weapon became our textbook." The images changed to show huge underground facilities where scientists worked day and night on alien technology. Then it showed shipyards hidden inside hollowed-out asteroids, building the fleet that had now defeated the Empire. "Humanity came, together like never before," Moore said. "Countries that had fought each other for hundreds of years now worked as one. Scientists shared all discoveries freely. For the first time in human history, we had one goal that mattered more than anything else: survival." Emperor Krathvar watched the images with dull eyes. "And now you will destroy us," he said. "As we tried to destroy you." Moore turned off the projector. "No, that's where we're different. We're here to end your empire, not your species." She handed the Emperor a small crystal data drive. "These are our terms. They're not open for discussion. They include payment for the damage you caused to Earth, giving up your weapons, and creating a new galactic council where all species, including yours, will have an equal voice." "And if we refuse?" the Emperor asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Moore's face hardened. "Then we continue taking apart your empire piece by piece until someone smarter takes your place." One of the Emperor's advisors, a female Draconid, with lighter-colored scales, moved closer to the throne. "We should consider their terms, Your Majesty," she said quietly. "We have no choice." "Admiral Varrock is right," General Vortash added. "The humans have proven stronger than we imagined. Fighting further will only lead to more Draconid deaths." The Emperor looked at his advisors, then back to Ambassador Moore. "How do we know you won't destroy us once we surrender? Your fleet controls our homeworld. What's to stop you from bombing our cities as we bombed yours?" "Because we're not you," Moore said firmly. 20 years ago, you attacked Earth without warning. You killed billions who had never harmed you. You did it because you could, because you thought we were too weak to stop you." She paused, looking each member of the war council in the eyes before continuing. "Humans could do the same to you now. We have the power. We have the right, some would say. But we choose a different path." From outside the palace came the sound of cheering. Moore nodded to one of her Marines, who opened the heavy curtains covering the windows. Sunlight poured into the room, and with it the view of the capital city. In the streets, Draconid citizens were celebrating. News had spread that the war was over, that there would be no planetary bombardment. "Your people already know," Moore said. "While we've been talking, Admiral Harris has been broadcasting our terms to every communication device on the planet. They know we're offering peace, not destruction." Emperor Krathvar stood slowly from his throne. For the first time in 3 days, he straightened to his full height. "It seems you understand power better than we did," he said. "We thought strength meant destruction. You've shown it can also mean mercy." He took the data crystal from Moore's hand. "I accept your terms, Ambassador. The Draconid Empire surrenders to humanity." As Moore left the palace, she saw human ships landing in the city's central square. They weren't carrying weapons, but medical supplies and food. In 3 days of fighting, some areas of the capital had been damaged. Now, human doctors and engineers were helping the injured and starting repairs. On her communication device, she called Admiral Harris. "It's done," she said. "They've accepted our terms." Harris's voice came through clearly. "Any problems?" "No," Moore replied. "They're beaten and they know it, but I think they're also relieved. The Emperor expected us to destroy their world. When we didn't, it changed something in him." Harris was quiet for a moment. "Good," he finally said. "Tell our people to continue the aid work. Let's show them what humanity really stands for." Moore looked up at the alien sky, so different from Earth's. "We came to end an empire," she said softly. "Maybe we can build something better in its place." 1 month had passed since the human fleet arrived at Draconis Prime. The great palace that had been home to Draconid emperors for centuries was now filled with visitors from across the galaxy. Representatives from 27 different species had gathered in what was once the throne room. The room had been changed. The tall throne where Emperor Krathvar once sat was gone. In its place stood a round table with identical seats. No position was higher or more important than any other. Through the large windows, people could see workers from many worlds helping to change the old Imperial warships. They were being rebuilt as science vessels and trading ships. Admiral Harris stood near a window, watching the activity outside. He wore a formal uniform with no weapons. Beside him, Ambassador Moore adjusted her collar, not used to formal clothes after weeks of wearing practical outfits during the negotiations. "I still can't believe it worked," Harris said quietly. "When they attacked Earth, I thought we were finished." Moore nodded. "Most aliens in the galaxy thought the same. That's why this meeting is so important. It shows everyone that humans aren't just survivors. We're builders." The room grew quiet as Kevin Duncan, the newly chosen human representative to what was being called the Galactic Concord, walked to the center of the room. He was a teacher before the Draconid attack. Now he represented all of humanity. 20 years ago, Duncan began, his voice strong and clear, humanity nearly disappeared from the galaxy. We were attacked not because we were a threat, but because we were seen as weak and unimportant. He looked around at the gathered aliens. Some had scales like the Draconids. Others had fur or feathers. Some didn't look like any life form from Earth, but all were equal here. Many of your species suffered under Draconid rule. Duncan continued. Some were conquered by force. Others were forced into unfair agreements. All of you were denied the right to choose your own future. Former Emperor Krathvar sat at the round table. He no longer wore the golden crown and fine robes of an emperor. Now he was simply the Draconid representative. He looked smaller, almost ordinary. Humans could have chosen revenge, Duncan said. Many people on Earth wanted to destroy the Draconid homeworld completely, but that would have just replaced one cruel empire with another. He pressed a button on the table. Above everyone's heads, a 3D image appeared showing the structure of the new Galactic Concord. It wasn't built like an empire with one ruler at the top. Instead, it was a circle where all members had the same power and voice. Instead, we choose to build something new, Duncan explained. Not a human empire replacing the Draconid one, but a true community of worlds. Equal partners in government, trade, and defense. As the meeting continued through the day, many delegates who had arrived suspicious began to show interest in the Yao ideas being presented. Species that had been enemies under the Empire started careful talks about working together. Later, when the formal meeting ended for the day, Ambassador Moore was approached by Talara, the representative from Altair. The Altarians were known for being careful and suspicious of new things. "I must admit," Talara said, her skin glowing slightly in the evening light, "when we heard that humans had defeated the Empire, we were afraid you would be vengeful." Moore smiled slightly. "Many humans wanted revenge, but we've learned the hard way that revenge only leads to more pain on both sides." "A surprising wisdom," Talara observed, "from a species so young compared to others in the galaxy." "Maybe it's because we are young," Moore replied. "We haven't had time to become set in our old ways of thinking." As night fell over the capital city, Admiral Harris stood on a balcony overlooking the lit-up buildings. Lights burned in offices and homes as the work of building something new continued even after dark. Commander Owen joined him, offering a glass of Earth whiskey he had saved for a special occasion. "To victory," he said, raising his glass. Harris took the drink but shook his head. "Not to victory, to survival, and to what comes next." The two officers looked up at the stars. The same stars that once seemed to promise only death for humanity now looked full of possibility. "What does come next, sir?" Owen asked. Harris thought about the question. "Something better, I hope. Something worth all we've lost and all we've learned." In a quiet corner of the palace garden, former Emperor Krathvar sat alone on a stone bench. Admiral Varrock, who had supported peace during the surrender talks, found him there. "The humans surprise me," Krathvar said without looking up. "They hold all the power now. They could demand anything." Varrock sat beside him. "That's what makes them different. They understand something we forgot during our centuries of conquest. And what is that? That true power isn't about how many worlds you control or how many ships you have," Varrock said. "It's about knowing when not to use the power you have." Across the galaxy, news of the Empire's fall and the creation of the Galactic Concord spread quickly. On Earth, people who had lived in fear for 20 years finally began to believe they could have a future without war. In what was once North America, a memorial had been built where the first Draconid bombs fell. It was a simple stone wall with the names of those who died. Now people were leaving flowers there, not just in mourning but in celebration. Humanity had survived its darkest hour. On the rebuilt streets of London, an old man who had lost his family in the attack watched children playing. They had been born after the invasion, the first generation to grow up without constant fear. He smiled as they laughed, running through a park that had once been just ashes. In the new United Earth government building in Geneva, leaders from all human nations received the first messages from the Galactic Concord. Plans for trade, cultural exchange, and shared defense were already being created. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage not as conquerors or victims, but as architects of a new way for different species to live together. They had transformed their pain into wisdom, their fear into strength, and their anger into determination to build something better. The stars, once so threatening, now offered endless possibilities, and humanity was ready to explore them all, not alone, but as part of a greater community they had helped create. The end.